Hello to all the comic fans, Marvel geeks, and all the nerds in between. Welcome to another episode of Vigilante Vibes Podcast, where we talk all things Marvel, along with other fandoms, but without the toxicity that's taken up way too much space in each and every fandom. I'm your host, Megan Nicole, and we're here to have another episode of elevating the nerdy voices of the rainbow, where we lift up the voices of the LGBTQ plus communities. Today I have a very special guest. He's a fellow X-Men obsessed nerd. You may know him as Gay of X. Please welcome Miguel.
Hi, thank you for having me, Megan.
Thank you for coming on. It's so nice to actually meet you. I've seen your stuff on Blue Sky for a while now, and I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Likewise, I love that you make an effort to include everybody in what you're doing.
Yeah, the world is scary now, and it feels like these minority communities, these small communities that people act like are a big threat but aren't, are getting their voices diluted a little more each day. So you got to do what you can, because I know my privilege. I'm a straight white woman, you know? So I just feel like it's the thing to do.
I'm glad to hear that. I hear you say that. That's yeah. I mean, I think everybody has their own level of privilege, whatever it is. But I definitely acknowledge also that as a gay black man, who's the son of immigrants, who were refugees from, where they came from. It's, I am definitely hyper aware of all the different ways that that I'm marginalized and that others are marginalized. And so, with my feed, I do my best to, in particular, um, lift up queer voices.
Hmm.
I feel, in my personal experience, that queer people are the marginalized within all the marginalized groups. Like no one likes us, and so at least that's the way it feels sometimes. And so, yeah, the X-Men resonate quite a bit for me because of that, for those reasons, and with the queer community in particular.
I can definitely see what you mean when you say that's marginalized within being marginalized, because you have the black community, but then you're a gay black man, and it's like it's a 2-for-1 deal, which I think is positive, but for other people, it's like, oh, another thing.
Yeah,
Okay, it's like it's so crazy because you're not affecting anyone. That's no impact on anyone. Who cares?
exactly. Ultimately, who cares? And ultimately, at the most base level, it's like your gender expression and, in particular, your sexuality. Your sexuality is what you're doing in the bedroom with somebody else. It's like, why does anybody care what you're doing? But that's the way that our world, has revolved for a really long time. And as we're witnessing with the current admin, they use anything they can to further marginalize and further ostracize other groups, and weaponize that stuff to to build hate and division and all that kind of stuff, and politicize anything that they can grab onto to create a buzz, like even the whole price of eggs thing. It's like the reason why the price of eggs is high is because all these chickens died. It's like that's the only reason. It has nothing to do with anything else other than that, and but they will latch on to whatever they think folks want to hear to to get some traction. And it's sad that they use people that way.
It definitely shows that all people are not equal in their eyes, that some people are less than human to them. And there's always been some grenades that you just don't pull the trigger on. There's always been some we just stayed away from. But lately, it seems like those have gone out the window. Ev- Everything is just accessible now. We have Nazis now. Where are we? In
Publicly hailing, yeah.
Yeah, like what is going on? It's just
It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's a lot. And I'm so thankful for, comic books and
yeah.
and all of the things that are interlaced in between, for giving us a moment of escapism. Like we definitely need it. We definitely need a second to just like not be conscious of the present, where however you do that. And for me, and I'm assuming for you as well, it's comic books and, and all the good things in between. And, um, but I do give a lot of credit to the X-Men, like pretty much since from the beginning, they've always leaned into, um, the current climate and current politics, and it has been especially the case with the ending of the Krakoan era. They went through quite a bit against this group Orcus,
I think it's
that
Orcus. I think I've said it twice, two different ways in my head, so I'm not sure yet.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that group, they represent basically a fascist kind of Nazi vibe, and they just went in and wanted to get rid of all the mutants, and the way that the writers approached that was to show the mutants that were left after they were all massacred. A lot of them were massacred, showing them basically resisting, in every single way possible. And as that event was happening, Trump was running, but I don't think anybody thought that he was actually going to win at the time, a year or two ago or whatever the case was, and so now for me personally, I have that as reference. It's like, okay, I have this experience, that we just read in the books, and now we're experiencing it in real time, and it's been like a crutch to lean on. And I'm so thankful um, that Marvel Comics, made a space for that, as they always have, and that the writers really leaned in and took it as far as I think they could possibly go. Oh, who's that?
Oh, that's my daughter.
Oh,
She's
hey. Uh-oh.
she the, both my kids have been sick this week, so they're kind of coming out of it now. So they're super super clingy all the time.
They want their
All the
mommy. I
damn time.
get that. I remember what that was like when I was sick.
Man, like just like why are you so obsessed with me though? Oh god. But like, you know, speaking of kids, this is the things that's happening in society. I don't think people understand. Your kids are watching you. Like when you make fun of someone for being gay, if when you say they're horrible for that. One second.
No, no problem.
What? I don't want you over here. I don't want you on camera, baby. I know. Okay, that's fine. You sit this way then. I guess she's gonna join us today. That's lovely. Oh, great.
She wants to be included.
Well, this is a conversation you'll have to have at some point, so might as well.
Might as well. Here we are. Yeah. Hi. What's her name?
Amelia.
Hey, Amelia.
That's okay. Whatever. Um, but your kids could be gay, transgender. They could be non-binary, and they hear you beating down these communities. What are you doing? You're hurting so many more people than you think you are, and I don't think people have grasped that.
Yeah, unfortunately, bigotry is linked to ignorance, unfortunately, really, really strongly. It's like pretty much the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And so, if you walk around that oblivious and ignorant to reality, you're not even thinking about the fact that your kids might be part of the communities that you're bashing. You're just thinking, you know, you're assuming that everyone you know is just like you know? And it's just like, it's like, it's like it's such an awful, I think in general, when people generalize other people, it's, any group, it's awful, but just assume that everyone in your family, everyone in your town, everyone in your church, everyone at your work thinks exactly like you do. It's just like, wow, like that's at the most basic level. Like how do you walk around like that? And so I think that's what gives a lot of folks, you know, um, I guess whatever the liberty or the freedom to be so hateful is to assume that everyone is going to agree with what they're saying, or that everyone does. And it's just like, really, bro, really, man.
It gives
um,
it's entitlement. It's
yes,
yeah,
that's the word.
you think you're that important. You think you're that good in life that other people should be like you. And it's like at the end of the day though, you're kind of trash. Like just a walking dumpster fire. I don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get that not everybody agrees, and that's fine. I don't expect you to be like me. Like that's the point. It's like we're all different, and we're similar, but we're all different. And I don't expect anyone to agree, but at least be aware enough to say, we all exist and we all have the right to exist and we should all have a space, whether I agree with what you're doing or not.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's just like base level respect. It's like, it's like, yeah,
It it's funny because it does match the plot lines, the multiple plot lines of the new NYX comic series so well. They're like, we just want to be here. We don't even have to engage. We don't have to talk. I'm not trying to make you see that I'm just like you, or not trying to make you accept me. Just leave me alone.
just leave me alone.
Just mind your business. It's just so basic. Like, these communities aren't asking you to go to pride parades. They're not asking you to do any of these things. Just shut up. Just leave them
Just
alone.
yes, 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 yes. And yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought up NYX. It's such a good book, and it really brings everything that you just said and everything we've been discussing into a really contemporary, like present lens. Um Especially it being, placed in a metropolis, through the metropolis city like New York, and the cast of characters being people who are probably like in their teens to like 20s, 30s. And um I think it makes what's happening very real and very relevant. And I especially love that what they did with that book is try to show that it's possible to create community even in the middle of all of that sort of chaos and hate. I really appreciated that. Like the two examples that I'm recalling are you know the mutants who are visibly, presenting mutants, and they, did their thing, and they went underground like the Morlocks traditionally did. And I think there was a there was a hate crime against a queer mutant, and they came up and said, we should take up space, to represent or to stand up for this person who was killed. And then most recently with one of the other characters, uh, where they created an NYX community within the community center, and that's where everybody's hanging out and like and seeking community and supporting each other. Um, and I thought those two examples were really great and really strong to present to any of the readers that might be picking it up.
Yeah, I completely agree. It started off so strong, and it kept that energy going the entire time. And it's still going. There's a new one coming out this week, that's starting, I believe that's going to start doing the crossover for X Manhunt for Charles Xavier.
Charles, oh Charles,
I think Charles is a villain, and I
yes,
think not enough people accept that fact. So, first of all, you're grooming kids. Like, you're just plucking them out of malls, letting them live with you to make them your own little army. And like, no one thinks anything about this. No one says any. He's one adult with all these little kids who have no control of their emotions over their powers,
right,
and he has
right,
Cerebro. He could just see anything at any
exactly,
time. Like,
exactly.
creep.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot, over the many, 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 many years that, that book's been being written, it's come up more than once that people think that he's all like this really good guy who's like altruistic and doing the best. And then it shows that, oh, he's actually been manipulating everybody, low key, in the background. And you didn't even realize that he was, shifting your thoughts or your actions or anything. And so, I think because he has this facade of like somebody who's trying to unify everyone, that's really what on the surface what we all lean on, and we have leaned on, especially if you've been reading the book as a kid. But it's also been proven that he's shady. He's
Yeah.
manipulative, and and he doesn't always have the best intentions at heart. And so yes, he is definitely a villain. And I think he's the scariest kind of villain. He's the kind that pretends to be a good guy, and he's actually not. And maybe he even thinks he's a good guy, which is even worse, but he's actually not. So,
But
yeah.
I think most villains look at themselves and think they're doing the right thing. Like, even they see the other side and they're like, oh, they're just wrong. I'm right. So I'm the
Yes.
hero here. I think Magneto is an interesting example of someone who knows what he's doing probably isn't the right thing, but in his head he's like, they'll see it's right. In
Hmm.
the end it's the right way to go.
Right.
Professor X, dude, like I agree with you. He's the worst kind of villain because he thinks he's right, like most villains, but he makes you think he's right too. He can manipulate you. He puts you in this vulnerable position that you don't even know you're in at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's fun. You were mentioning earlier, regarding how he's, recruited all these like, marginalized kids who don't have anywhere to go, blah blah blah, et cetera, come from broken families, and that's unfortunately, how a lot of, these militant groups recruit. They recruit, and gangs for that matter. Organized crime. They recruit like these really really young kids who like have nowhere to go and no one to look after them, and they're like, oh, perfect, pick these kids up and like, get them to do, whatever we want. And that's pretty much what Charles has done, from the get-go. And it's just like a reframing of that, right? It's like, well, look at it from this perspective. Like, yeah, those kids didn't have anywhere to go, but is what he's offering really the best thing for them, the best thing for them. And it's been touched on a little bit here and there throughout all the years, but within the Krakoan era, it was really with some of the spin-off books, there were lots of crews of mutants who were like, I'm not down. Like, I am not down with what he's trying to sell. Some of them weren't even down with Krakoa. They were like, no, I don't want to be island off. I want my life here the way that it is. I want to fight for my life as it is. Which I think what was great about seeing that was the fact that, we should all have choice. And, regardless of what that is, we should all have choice and we should all be able to, to live life as we see fit. Um, Even if you are deciding to put yourself in danger, that's your choice. It's like you should have that choice. So yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, and um, yeah, Charles is a creep.
Well, he
Oh,
also there is a form there the false promises he gives you. He's like, you come with me, I can help you control your powers, make you in control. He never once says, you come with me, I'm gonna see how strong you are, and we're gonna see what you can do for me. Like, even that is just such a big mirror as to what happens in the real world. And the people that say that, oh, X-Men aren't they weren't always woke, they're woke now. It's like, what do you think woke means? Like, they invented it in the comic book world. First of all, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. And it's such a huge um what's the word I'm looking for? It's such a huge IP, at this point, such a huge property that it has spanned many decades. It has spanned many forms of media, and so you have a lot of fans that are people who appreciate it on the periphery, on the surface. All they know is Charles Xavier and a few of the other names, and they're mutants, with powers. And they've never read the books or not really in depth. They maybe have seen one of the movies or a couple of the movies, and so it's very easy to gloss over and just be like, oh, it's superheroes. They're not woke. They're not meant to be woke. Or they're not meant to be. They've never been socially aware or pushing any sort of social agenda or referencing politics. And it's like, if you haven't read, any of it, it's very easy to assume that. And so I think that's a big part of the issue with any property, any sort of major book or characters. It's like when they get so big, people, just pick up the bits that they like and leave out the rest.
I do agree with that. I think if you're just watching the shows, you see X Men the animated series, which that's a hard show to go back and watch, man.
Yeah.
That's rough, but it's still there. But I do like that they were louder about it with X Men '97, especially with Magneto.
Yes.
But with the movies, they had maybe one or two characters pushing what the X-Men usually stand for. It's like we should be accepted. This isn't fair. You're perfect the way you are. But you see them just kind of yelling into the void of the movie because no one's really saying, "That's right. You're right. Damn right." But
Mm-hmm.
so they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of come off like they're whining.
Yes, yes, yes. It's like yes, like they point this out. They point out like what you're saying. Like they point out the injustice, but like nothing's actually done about it. Nothing's actually not in any concrete, solid way. It's and I get that from a movie making perspective because the director and the producers are trying to sell a product, right? They want ticket holders to come through, and so they're not gonna they don't necessarily want to make something that's gonna be that's going to limit that goal, and so I get how that happened, and how it happens with films in particular. But yes, it's important to be respectful to the property and to bring forward what it's really about. Um, I think when you look back at the movies, from the first one to the last one that was done by Fox, they definitely did their best, I think, to inject some of the socio-political stuff in there. But as a whole, when you look back at it as a whole, with the individual movie, if you're just watching the first or the second or the third or whatever, the Jennifer Lawrence ones, you might not pick it up, just watching the one. But as a whole, I can see like, okay, they did try to pull this thread through, Um, yeah, I think you definitely have to have a certain level of social awareness to pick up on it and to really get what the reference is and to say, okay, this is referencing prejudice, this is referencing homophobia, this is referencing racism, this is referencing sexism. But it's there. If you care about any of those things, you care about representation, it's definitely there.
I agree. You do have to kind of look for it. Like you said, the thread is always pulled through. But if you're watching it just to, oh, X-Men with powers, let's watch that, you'll also find that too. But it's like they didn't just come from nowhere. They
Right.
like
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
just it's just interesting to me how people like to pick and choose, but it's like
It's
just
there. Yeah.
yeah, you can't just
Like the
ignore what they were built on.
Yeah, even in the first one, like the government was trying to, shut mutants down and create laws to like have them all basically, be prisoners. It's just like, how do you not pick up on that? It's like that happens in real life all the time. It's happening right now still, 20, 30 years later. It's like, yeah, it's really interesting how people, pick and choose. I'm so curious about, I'm looking at your awesome wall and I'm looking at your sweatshirt and everything you got going on back there. How did you get into comics? Like, what was the thing that pulled you in?
Oh gosh. Probably X-Men. The
Yeah.
X-Men the animated series, and then I never really lived by a comic book store. We were a military family, so we constantly moved. There are no comic book stores on bases, so there's nothing. Then I lived overseas. There was nothing. So I actually got into the comics pretty late in life. But once you start understanding what's going on, like you start off with a number one installment of something, you're like, I'm in. I'm done. I am here to stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's totally true. It's like once you get sucked in, you're like, oh, and then there's all these. If you're really into what you just read, then you have to like pick up all the references. Like, okay, what are they talking about in this page, and what's that bubble with the issue number 57? Like, I've got to go figure that out, and like it's really well done, for you to like get intrigued and pull other books, which I think is it's a great thing.
I also think there's like kind of no one wants to admit it, but I'll admit it. There's this little hierarchy in your head when you're like, I know more than you. So you read the comics and you're like, I know exactly what they're talking. I know what they're gonna do that movie. I know what that references. I know more than everyone. I No one wants to admit it, but it's there and it's okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, especially on social media because we can see it, we can read
Yeah.
it. It's sitting there. you see, how, somebody might post something and, there's always, which I've definitely done it, like I'm like, oh, that's about this and this and this, and here's, where it happened, and here's like here's maybe like a screenshot of the event or whatever. And you know, I know why I do it. It's like I'm so giddy. I want to share something I think is really
Yes.
cool.
You're just
But there,
excited.
I'm excited. But I also do catch myself sometimes being like, bro, you're just showing off. you just, you're just showing off. Like, don't be annoying. Just let folks discover stuff on their own. But yeah, it is. You're true. It's like this little bit of like, oh yeah,
But yeah, it's not meant in a malicious way. Sometimes you're just excited. Like
hmm
when someone brings up a topic and you're just meeting them for the first time and you're like, I actually know things about this. Like I bring something to the table here. I am excited to know more. And it's like X-Men, it's basically an endless thing. Like anyone that says that they've read every single X-Men comic, you won. You won life. You can just stop now. I'll never get there, but like that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So you're always constantly learning.
Yeah, it's a constant learning thing. I've been reading the book since I was probably like 9 or 10, and I'm always discovering something that I didn't know. Like there's
Yeah.
always something, some issue, some weird fact, something that I didn't know, and it's awesome. It's like an entire, world where you can just literally get lost. And I really appreciate that about all the books, and all the stories that I've, been done, since the 60s. Like it's so, so, so great. Yeah, and it gets me through. Like I was lapsed on the books for a long, long time, and 2020 happened. We didn't have anywhere to go. We were all stranded and stuck at home, and my brain just went right to it. It's like, okay, well, let's do this, and I'm so thankful that the books have maintained. Excuse me, sorry.
My kids have interrupted us like 50 times. You're fine.
Uh, yeah, I'm so thankful that the books have maintained for so long, and that there was enough there to get me to jump back in and be interested and be curious, and and want to be a part of it all again. And so here I am. I'm completely collecting and addicted. All these years later.
So what got you into it originally? Like was it the social agenda they put out or was it, "Oh my god, powers, this is so fun." Cuz that was me.
Yeah, that was totally me. I remember exactly. I was in this. We were in this open air market. I was with my mom, and we were just walking around, and someone had a comic book booth, and they had the books, and they had figures, and they had um, some of the cards, and my eyes, I saw some of the cards, and I just like they got this big, and I was like, oh my god, and I just begged my mom to buy them, and she did. And those cards break down the character and their powers, and a little bit of their backstory, and I just fell right in. And so then when I figured out that the cards were referencing comic books, I was just like, and so I made my mom take me to the nearest comic book store, and I just, thankfully she was like, yeah, let's do it, and I was hooked. And so yeah, initially it was about powers, and it was about oh, they're mutants, and oh my God, this wasn't they were born this way, like that's cool. Um, and then as I got older, and being a kid who is being raised by immigrants, and eventually figured out that I was gay, and was being bullied and all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh my God, like all this stuff that I'm going through is happening in this book that I'm reading right now. And so I just really, really leaned in, and that's what got me. That's what made me, I think, a fan for life.
I think that's great. And here you are now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like I
Still
love that.
babbling about it. Yeah.
Yeah, how can you not? It's such a vast world of so many different themes that everyone can find something to relate to in some way. There's no way you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the magic of it. I think that, um, exactly what you just said. No matter who you are, if you feel, that you're different in any kind of way, you're represented in those books. And you should definitely pick it up. Absolutely.
Well, this has been so much fun with you. I've loved
Oh,
getting to know you. You've been amazing. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
yes. Blue Sky Gay of X at Queers of X. That is where I'm at. That is the only place that I'm at. And so if you'd like, please definitely find me there.
Cannot recommend his account enough. So definitely go check him out. Just check the show notes and you'll find a link to where you can find him very easily. Thank you for coming on. This has been great. You're welcome back anytime, obviously.
Thank you, Meg. I appreciate it. You've been awesome.
Oh, thank you. So that does it for this episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Vigilante Vibes. Wherever you're listening, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my amazing guests or any future episode. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a marvelous night.